You're in the water loop.
Waterloop. Hi, this is Travis, the founder and host of Waterloop. For this episode, I want to talk to you about exciting news around the expansion of Waterloop and the content that's going to be coming up in the months ahead, and also talk about my professional and personal journey in water that brought me to this point and Waterloop to this point. I'll say first that a few years ago, I started Waterloop because I saw a need to focus more on the solutions in the water space. There's a lot of coverage about the challenges, the problems, the latest crisis, and it all has a big doom and gloom feel to it. It can be very discouraging to people that work in water and to the public in general. And I think that there is a real need to cover more of the solutions that are happening out there. There is so much going on that is positive. So I started Waterloop to really spotlight those success stories, the paths to progress, the people that are bringing about positive change. Since 2020, Waterloop's podcasts, videos, and social media content have brought much needed attention to the people and the projects that are improving water sustainability and equity. It's amazing to me that I have had listeners to the podcast from more than 80 countries around the world. And I think that speaks to the appetite that there is for positive news, for solutions out there. And my goal through the content is to help water leaders discover solutions and drive change. Now, anybody that's interested in water can tune into the podcast, but it's especially geared towards people that are in the water space and kind of the adjacent sectors. So people that work at utilities, in government, at universities and research, at technology firms and engineering companies, in advocacy organizations and activist groups, all of those folks. And again, the idea is that they can learn about these solutions and hopefully carry some of them into their work. Very proud that Waterloop is supported by a series of funders and sponsors and partners that have a shared focus on water solutions. So in 2023, a lot of exciting things happening. I'm going to continue having regular interviews with experts about the key issues of the day: water management, policy, equity, infrastructure, drinking water, climate change, and more. I'm also going to continue having conversations with and spotlighting the emerging leaders and diverse voices in water who are leading change and developing new approaches. It is critical that these new voices get elevated in the water space. But I have several new areas of content that are going to be coming out this first half of 2023 that I'm really excited about. Waterloop is now a media partner for the Reservoir Center for Water Solutions, which is a facility in Washington, D.C., right on the Anacostia River, that was set up as a place of collaboration where thought leaders, decision makers, water experts can come and try to come together and tackle the big issues of the day. So Waterloop is going to be releasing a lot of content highlighting some of the conversations that happen at the Reservoir Center, the events, the discussions, also interviews with its many influential affiliates. So stay tuned for that. Please also check out the Reservoir Center online and give them a follow on social media. Also going to be publishing a series on how a community responds to PFAS pollution. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina, and for 40 years, PFAS was dumped in the Cape Fear River. And this series is going to look at the response, the lessons learned to this situation. There's going to be episodes on the science, on the utility, on how the community groups responded, on public health, on the regulatory issues, and more. Please stay tuned for that PFAS series. Also very excited that I'm going to be getting out around the country and visiting some communities and talking with people who are really creating change, especially that's needed to raise water sustainability and equity. So Going to be visiting the city of New Orleans, the Central Valley in California, and Navajo Nation in Arizona, just to start 2023. Very excited to follow along with change makers in those communities and see what's happening. Lastly, the new series that'll be happening is around lead in drinking water. Now, the nation is grappling with this issue still, as it has for decades, and trying to figure out how to get rid of the, 10 million lead service lines that are out there. So I'm going to be producing a series looking at the options for financing the replacement of lead service lines. Also, how to deliver technical assistance to under-resourced communities and exploring examples of successful approaches. Those series, the Reservoir Center, seeing equity up close in some communities, the PFAS pollution, and also lead, that's all coming out in the first half of 2023, along with my regular episodes. So very excited for all of that content. Please be sure to follow along, to subscribe and listen to the podcast on your favorite platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. Also, follow along on social media on all the platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok. And if you go to waterloop.org, you can subscribe to get email updates when new content comes out. I want to say that I'm really grateful for every single member of the audience and everybody that has supported Waterloop and myself for the past several years. It's allowed me to get to this point. I'm really excited to be kind of going exclusive with Waterloop and expanding and enhancing what this nonprofit media outlet does. It's going to take continued support and interest from all of you to make it a success. I'm always here for suggestions, feedback, ideas, so please do reach out. I also want to talk a little bit about my professional and personal journey in water, just so you can maybe get to know a little bit about me and how that all kind of led to Waterloop. My journey in water and communications is very professional and personal. So I guess one place the story started was when I was in elementary school. I think it was 5th grade, and I wanted to start a school newspaper. So I made up a mock front page and put some headlines on there and had ideas for stories. And I walked it up to the teacher and I showed it to her and I asked if we could start a school newspaper. And she just looked at me with this perplexed expression and said, "No, we don't have time for that." That was tough, and it was tough to take, but it did not dissuade me from being interested in journalism and sharing stories. I went on and did journalism in high school, was on the school newspaper, even did some paid writing for a small community newspaper. And then after college, I went on and was a newspaper reporter and editor for 7 or 8 years, including in North Carolina, Washington, D.C., and then in Hawaii. And that was just a wonderful experience, and really is the foundation kind of me as a professional. I did leave media and went on to be the speechwriter for the governor of Hawaii. Obviously wrote about a lot of different issues, but natural resources and the ocean are a huge deal in Hawaii, and was able to further my understanding through that job. Went on next to move back to my home state of Maryland and live in Annapolis, where I worked at EPA's Chesapeake Bay program as their public affairs director. And the Chesapeake Bay program really works to pull together the federal agencies, the states, and others that are involved in restoration and protection of the Chesapeake Bay. Really, so many water issues converge and are part of that watershed, an incredible learning experience. And then I went to the EPA Office of Water in DC, where I was the communications director from 2011 to 2017. And those were 6 incredible years during the Obama administration, working on so many water issues. Again, just an incredible learning experience. I was there when the Flint drinking water crisis happened, when PFAS started to really rise to national prominence. working on waters of the U.S. and jurisdiction of the Clean Water Act, working to eliminate discharges of toxic contaminants from power plants into waterways, just a great range of issues that I was part of there. And then for the past 6 years, I was at the Water Environment Federation. And this organization is really known for being a leading source of education and networking for water professionals on the wastewater and stormwater side. And those were my biggest takeaways from being there, was just furthering my education around water issues and meeting incredible people from all parts of the sector. So that's my professional background that kind of led me to Waterloop. My personal background, back when I was a kid, probably like many of you, a lot of great experiences around water, just so much enjoyment around water. When I would go to the beach, loved that trip every year to the beach in Delaware. Also grew up going to the Thousand Islands in New York, which is on the St. Lawrence River, and wonderful times around that water. I was also a competitive swimmer from like age 8 to 18. So many hours in a pool, and really just developed a great relationship with water there, and realized how comfortable I was and how much I enjoyed it. I based my college decision around water, which I don't know if that was the best idea, but it seems to have worked out. So I went to the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, which is on the coast, and got to study sitting on the beach, and started getting into surfing a little bit there. And that's really why I ended up going to Hawaii as a reporter, is I just wanted to be by the ocean. And those 5 years that I lived in Hawaii, I just spent surfing and free diving, snorkeling, paddling around, being in the water as much as possible. And I've gone on to really base my personal life around water. Lived for 9 years in Annapolis, Maryland, which is on the Chesapeake Bay. Just an incredible place. And then now live in Wilmington, North Carolina, where again, I'm surfing, paddling, being in the ocean, visiting the beach as much as I can. And also, talking to my kids about water so much. And so that's how everything has kind of come together for me. And I bring that professional experience and that personal passion for water to this Waterloop nonprofit. I hope it's reflected in the content that comes out. And again, as I said, I want to thank all of you for being part of the journey so far, and I'm excited for what lies ahead.
Waterloop, Waterloop, Waterloop.